How y'all doing there? My name is Daniel. I'm going to give you a quick backstory, and then I'm going to talk a bit about Dick Cheney. Here on this post, my name is Daniel. I'm a two-time combat veteran, Iraq veteran. I never went to Afghanistan. I joined the Army in 2003 when I was 17. 2 weeks after I turned 17, I was in basic training down at Fort Benning, Georgia. I was Army infantry. I was stationed 6 years at Fort Campbell, and I served about 2.5 years, maybe a little more, over in Iraq. I'm a Purple Heart awardee as well as multiple other awards. That's not really important right now. I just hope that what I'm about to say will hold a bit more sway coming from me. Not because I think I'm personally special, but the idea that I'm a soldier, which is a blank face to most people. A soldier is just a green uniform to most people, and the fact is, as long as someone else has got to wear it and they don't, most people don't give a fuck. They put their yellow sticker on their car and they shake our hand or buy us a drink, and they think that they've done their American duty. But they'll walk past someone with a sign that says, I served in Vietnam, can I please have a cheeseburger? And they'll spit on them. What are the chances that guy actually served in Vietnam? I'd say about 50-50, but they really don't give a fuck. I have a retired ID card right now, a military retired ID card, because I was medically retired. And if I was broke on the side of the road and and I stopped someone, I said, here's my retired ID card, if you could help me out, give me some gas or something like that, I'll pay you back. They still wouldn't believe me. It's a federal ID card. I can go and sign machine guns out of an arms room with those things, but someone wouldn't trust me to let me borrow $20 in gas and mail it back to them. Man, these motherfuckers, I keep going off topic. Well, anyway, I'm not going to start over. This is like my 10th time trying to do this clip. Well, anyway, Dick Cheney, right? I'm looking back at the 2099 and 2000, because I'm young. I'm 23, be 24 this month in July. And I'm looking back and I'm like, how did the last 8 years has been the worst? I mean, not only have Republicans really controlled our country for, 40 out of the last 50 years, and look where we are today, somehow, you know what I mean? They're supposed to know the best. Out of the last 50 years, the best decade, or literally the best 8 years to a decade, was during a Democratic president. That was the best decade out of the last 50 was during a Democratic president. The least amount of American deaths as far as soldiers was during Clinton's years, Democratic president, out of the last 50. Start about Dick Cheney and Bush. First of all, if you believe anything Dick Cheney or Bush says, you're stupid right there. The fact that you would take them seriously and do anything and mock them. This is before they were president. This is after they're president. I don't give a fuck if they're 90. I'll tell this to Bush. I'll tell this to Bush Sr. I'll tell it to their... Well, first of all, Bush's mom she's a horrible human being. I seen that actually on this show, and I went back and I just wanted to make sure. And I forget what she was on. She was on The View, and they asked her, why do you think about all the deaths and everything over in Iraq, and she said, I don't waste my beautiful mind on those nasty things. She said something to that effect. She said beautiful mind. As she really, we're trusting her, the wife of the president, to talk some sense into him. I mean, if somehow my wife was president and I was of no significant figure like Barbara Bush, who the fuck is she besides giving birth to George Bush, who brought hell on us? If I was sitting in bed, I was like, hey baby, you're torturing these people, you're spying on literally every single American with dragnet surveillance. You basically chewed up and spit out our Constitution, which you avoided protecting. Remember, baby, that's what I'd be telling her if this was Bush, or she did what Bush did, chickened out of her war or whatever. And that's, she's supposed to be like the last line. Like, if no one can talk sense to her, the wife of the president is supposed to be one of two things on behalf of the country. In Bush's case, I kind of wish she would have killed him. And in everyone else's case, and hopefully in the future, I think personally, if Bush would have had a heart attack, not necessarily assassinated or anything like that, because I don't really wish that. Well, that's not true. I do wish Bush dead. I think he should be held accountable, brought to trial for the war crimes he committed, which would inevitably lead to his guilty conviction, which would inevitably lead to him being executed. I mean, he's single-handedly responsible for hundreds of innocent deaths just in the prison system alone he created, Abu Ghraib and the black site prisons. I mean, hundreds of people have been tortured to death in those prisons. Innocent people from countries all over the world, not just from Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq, but he pulled hundreds I'm comfortable saying hundreds, but I would be willing to go as far as to say thousands of people for which he had no background on. In most cases, he counted on the local police forces in these countries to do it. Like in Pakistan, one of the guys that he's now living in Britain, I believe, in the UK, he was held down there for 7 years. He was just going to Pakistan to see a bit of his culture before he was getting married, and he get picked up on a bus. They stop a bus because the Pakistan police were getting paid $5,000 a pop for anyone they brought, basically, who was Arabic, but not who was in Pakistan, who was Arabic, or who was in Pakistan, who was Muslim, but wasn't Pakistani. So they were just arresting all foreigners who were Muslim and sending them off to the CIA black site prisons and torturing them. And some of them they tortured to death. And so that's murder. It doesn't matter if he was doing it to try to save American lives, whatever the fuck he says. It doesn't matter. Justification for a crime, it doesn't matter. The ignorance or justification does not matter in the commission of a crime. That's how it is for you. That's how it is for me. You don't think that if, here's a situation, no matter what, I just get so frustrated when I talk about this shit. The point of fact is that I'm gonna say it, I'm glad that people that grew up in their prime in the 50s and 60s are not voting anymore. I'm glad that I'm not glad you want to say they're glad that they're dying, but I'm glad that that cycle of thought that they are so set in is gone. I'm glad that cycle of thought is gone. Because everybody thinks, they worked hard. They worked through the Depression, World War II. These people earned it. And really how they were raised is a lot of their, these old people. I mean, the large majority of old white people are racist. That's how they were raised. If you believe that someone was born in the 30s in the South and is a was born in the even in the 40s or 50s in the South, they're 60, 70 years old and they're legislators, and you don't think that they're saying nigger behind closed doors, you are fucking stupid. Man, if you got the entire House and Senate together, I would be willing to make this wager. If you got the entire House and Senate together, I would bet my Purple Heart and my lifelong pension on this. If you got, and let's just say Republicans, I would even say Democrats as well, but let's just say Republicans. If you got the entire Republican caucus from the House and Senate and put them on a lie detector test and said, in the last month, in the last 30 days, have you called Barack Obama a nigger to anyone? I guarantee at least 60%, 70% of them would fail. If you don't think Republicans, when they're behind closed doors and they know no microphones are on and they know that, there's no way that a Washington Times reporter is just hiding around the corner, they're not calling Barack Obama a nigger and thinking of ways to get him out of the White House, you're stupid. And I think that's a nasty word, but I'm going to use it to try to get my point across because that's what they're saying. That's what they're doing. They really think that somehow Barack Obama snuck in and it's a mastermind, and that's how these people think in their deep-seated racism in their old age. This is how they think. This is how the Republicans have trained them to think over the last, deep-seated conspiracies from just the most bullshit ways. They're thinking at the end of the world, like Barack Obama's the Antichrist. He's going to stamp 666 on your right hand and World War currency. You remember Michelle Bachmann tried to do the legislation within the last couple months to make it so we could never transfer to a one world currency because in Revelations, that's, the signs of the end of days. So she's going to go out there and try to make sure that at least one of the 7 seals in Revelations can't be broken and all this other bullshit, But Dick Cheney, Bush, pussies, cowards. Dick Cheney had 5 deferments. I wouldn't believe a damn thing he says. If you are sitting there and thinking the CIA hasn't lied and there isn't more things about it, right, let me tell you how it was. If you've used anything that could be strewed as bomb, like if you're on the internet and you type in bomb, nuke, if you're on the phone, especially cell phone, and you say bomb, nuke, or you start talking about the Iraq War, whatever, you are being recorded. Period. Recorded. You are being recorded. And there's nothing you can say about it. You may sit there and think, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. But you are. That's why whenever Obama got in office, he said, okay, no one that has been under these surveillance acts can sue unless the surveillance that was done on them is being used against them in some way, whether it was to not get a job or in a criminal case. If that illegal surveillance is being used against you in some way, then you can sue. Why did he do that? Because every single fucking American would be able to do a sue, man. You'd have fucking literally every single American would be able to sue because they literally spied on every single American. These people did more in the last 8 years deconstructing our country and what it stands for, and as far as our safety as well, than has been done in the last 60 years to improve it.